Check. Everyone hear the voice? Good. Yes, thank you so much for introduction. Thank you so much for the Code Blue for allowing me to present in these presentations. It's super exciting. As you can tell, I am not from Japan. I'm all the way from Canada coming here to share this particular presentation. So we'll be talking about a global phishing platform called Telecopie. And I will tell the whole story about it. So a little bit introduction. I'm Mangatas Tondang, TAS. You can find me on Twitter or X, TAS Manager. So I'm actually working for Microsoft in their security research, specifically cloud application and threat research. I'm also part of the threat intelligence group called Curated Intel and the DFIR report. So if you are aware of them, yeah, so I'm part of them. A little bit of disclaimer before the presentation. So this is it's not related to my work at Microsoft. This is my personal research, and I'm working with some other researcher from different companies as a part-time kind of thing. And I'm a threat researcher, not really threat intelligence, so there might be some ways that are quite interesting the way I do it. And this is not sponsor talk, so I'm not praising any tools. Nobody pays me to promote certain tools. And I'm not saying bad things about some companies. This is just for awareness. So yeah, so for today we will be talking about 5 topics in general. I will introduce you like how I started the whole investigation itself. We will talk about 3 different cases. So the first one is the travel sites, and then the second one is the e-commerce and the postal service case. And then lastly, we'll connect everything. We will merge them with the Telecopie platform. And then lastly, there will be some reference for recommendation that hopefully can help people in this room. So we will talk about the different campaigns. So there are 2 of them, right? The travel and the e-commerce. We will talk about code analysis of the phishing pages, some of the interesting insights. We will connect them to the Telecopie platform, why we are sure that it's the same platform of this phishing. We'll talk about a lot of TTPs. We will not going to talk deep about the travel merchant compromise. We'll talk a bit more about that. And then we will not going to talk really detail on the Telecopie ecosystem. It's been done by some other companies, so I will not redo it again. And we will not try to attribute any threat actors to this particular attack. So introduction. So the reason why I get into research is actually funny because last year I was planning a proposal with my wife. She's actually here in Japan. That's like the Odaiba Park in Tokyo. So I booked using a platform called booking.com. So that platform, I've used it so many times. They have a chat function inside the platform. So you can talk to the hotel inside the platform. And you can use it to inform customers of certain things they need to do, or if any customers have any question, they can talk directly to the hotel. So this is a hotel booking platform. So what happened one day, I received this message on the official chat. If you cannot read it, it's a little bit small. They are telling you, okay, we need to verify your credit card information. So I assume this is the hotel, like the legitimate hotel. But if you see here, there is a typo, like it's a wrong word being used instead of confirm, it's confirm, which raises a question. So what I do, well, I'm actually surprised, huh? What it is? And then when I just clicked it because I thought it's just like some pages. So this is actually a phishing page. If you use booking.com before, this is the same page as booking.com, we'll ask that question again, how is it the same page? But the most interesting thing is they have all my booking information. So they have my check-in dates, check-out dates, the price, like 282 euros. They have my hotel name that I booked for the trip. They have the image of the hotel itself, and they have my first and last name already inside the system. So they know too much to be able to do this. So I asked my question, is this a fish? It is a fish. So this not happens only once or twice. It happens 5 times in the past 3 years. I'm not just going to Japan, but I've actually getting fished 2 or 3 times in Japan. When I have a trip to Germany, to France, even to Indonesia, where I'm from, I keep getting this phishing from the official chat. So yeah, so it's 5 phishing attempts, 5 different hotels, and then 4 different countries. It's so many things, it's so big. So we're talking about the scale, it's so big. So let's deep dive into the travel and the booking case. So if you see the message here, we get the first components, which is the chat itself. So they have common stuff. For example, they're using urgent, they're using authoritative. So they're like, oh, you need to do it soon. This is mandatory. This is like, it will remain active only for 12 hours. If you are too late, you will not be able to book your hotel. There's also like a phishing domain that is related to booking.com. So they are using booking, so it's like, which is the platform. And also there are typo in the phishing domain. It's a common things you see in the phishing messages. But there are some uncommon characteristic. They have all the information that they are not supposed to have, like my booking information, the reservation ID and such. And then the message, the worst part of it, it comes from the official chat. So I assume nobody should have control of that besides the hotel itself, or maybe the administrator of the booking.com. And then if we go, so what I do, I actually open up the link, I run it on my lab, so everything is secure. So there are 3 stages of the phishing website. So when you click the link, it will go to that first page, and then you need to enter the information such as your email address, your phone number, and then it has all the information like hotel name, etc. And then the second stage is to collect financial information. So this whole campaign is to collect users' credit card information, so financial information. But they have some functionality to verify, for example, if your phone number is correct, if your credit card is correct, if the expiry date, the CVC, etc., is correct. And then at the third stage, after you enter everything, it will tell you if it's a success or not. So it's like legitimate credit card operation. It will check if there's MFA, if there's security protection for the bank, and then yeah. And the last interesting thing is they have a customer support chat. So it's almost like a real application. So if you have problem entering banking information, they will help you to fix the problem so you can, give them the money pretty much, which is really interesting to me. So we are back to the question, why is the page are the same, the booking.com, and then let's call it the phishing.com, right? So I analyzed a bunch of the code, the HTML, JavaScript, everything. The reason why they are the same is actually because they are the same. So they're using the same themes, the same IDs, they are using the same classes. We are seeing it everywhere. On those 3 pages, they are the same. So that's the reason why it's really scary. Because if you are here, you have a web application, the threat actor can just use the same code that you have, and then they can phish your victim. So this is something really interesting to me. And then they have the same code, but they have the different code also because they need to process the data. They need to capture the credit card information. They need to capture your phone number. So they have their own code here. On the top is the booking.com, but the bottom one is the phishing.com. It's the same functionality, but it's different. So we know this is attacker control code. And then lastly, they have some inline code to verify credit card information. And the most interesting thing is they have different user scenarios. So from the research that I did, it seems like they are targeting mostly European countries. So in Europe, they have things like 3D secure authentication that they use in the banking industry. So for example, some of the scenario that we see, okay, when the user trying to send the credit card information, but in order to log in, they need MFA, they actually have a scenario where they ask for authentication, multi-factor authentication. So either using SMS code or application code from, for example, like a Google Authenticator. So they have that functionality there. If the user is hitting transaction limit, they might actually ask them to increase the limit. If they don't have the minimum amount of money, they will ask them to, for example, okay, use different card. If they don't use the 3D secure, they ask to enable it. If the user online payment is disabled, they ask them to, okay, please enable the online payment. And then some other stuff like that. So all of these are coded into the page itself. So we know it's a really advanced operation. They take account of all the different scenarios. And they have also a custom JavaScript. The reason I call it custom, because when you compare booking.com and the phishing.com, they don't have this particular folder called CSS booking 1. So these two code, submit.js and blur.import.js, are attacker control. So this is the code of the attacker. So we know it for sure. So what I do, using tools called urlscan.io, you can see the two components, the submit.js, the blur.input.js. So I do a little bit hunting on that, and then we'll see what we can find about it. And then we ask the question first. So what happened here? There are two thoughts come to mind. We have 5 different hotels, multiple countries. Is it the booking.com, the platform itself, the application itself, is the whole thing compromised? Or are the merchants or like the hotels are being compromised? So the missing part, this is actually already done by a threat research group called Perception Point. So this is actually the way they compromise the hotels. So it's number 2. The merchants are compromised. So the hotels, the small hotels, they are actually getting phished. They are getting infected by info stealer. So if you don't know about info stealer, it's a malware that's stealing your credentials in your web browsers, your password managers and such. And then the hotel, they store the password in the browser, for example, and then they get access to the attacker get access to the password itself, and then they log in as the administrator of the hotel in the booking.com. And it is confirmed by SecureWorks that it is a FIDAR info stealer. It's a really common info stealer being used by threat actors. So as I mentioned, I use the tool called urlscan.io. So I would like, in threat intelligence, there's a method called pivoting. So you are looking into one thing, and then you look into similar things around the area. So you can, for example, hunt for HTML classes using this tool, or in VirusTotal. You can hunt for the components. So we're talking the JavaScript, the HTML, the media files. We can compare the size, for example. You can see most of these sizes are under 400 kilobytes, above through to 65 kilobytes. So it's around the same size. And then you can compare the IP address serving these pages. So for example, if you want to use the query, you can use the sample query here if you want to play. The tool is free, but you can pay for premium services and such. But the free one, you can even use that and you can see the results. So this is when I run the query. You can see there's a lot more similar URLs being used. Seems like it's targeting Airbnb or something like that. So yeah, so if we check the results. So when I do those pivoting methods, I'm seeing more and more cases coming from the similarities of the web page. So here, for example, this is the earliest one that I can find on the URL scan. This is back in October 2021. So that's like 2 years before the incident that I had. So this one is targeting OLX, which is like an online transaction platform to sell and buy stuff. And again, we are seeing similarities. They have the product image, they have the product name, they even have the victim address, so like your home address where you're gonna send the items. You get the victim full name, and you get the price. So they are super similar. But here you'll see a little bit usage of DDoS guard as the IP. Meanwhile, on the other one, we see more of the Cloudflare, but we also saw some Cloudflare here. So yeah, so that raised a lot of questions why there are so many similarities here. It's almost the same, but not the same. For example, the Booking.com is using the chat message from the application itself. But here we saw evidence of using a shortening service, so bit.ly and other shortening services. So we are pretty sure that this is actually being sent on emails instead of chat messages, because when you use shortening or like redirecting services, the attacker trying to bypass your email security solution. Proofpoint, Microsoft Defender for Office, etc. So yeah, so it's really interesting to see that they're trying to attack from chat messages, they're trying to attack from email messages. And the bigger picture, there are more than 1,500, 1,500 URLs that is being reported. So that one are being reported, right? There are more than that. There are more victims than that. We don't know how many of them. When I sample it, I look to different things. The domain, the company being impersonated, the TLS certificate issuer, the IP, and also the target. So they're all pretty similar. We can see some target in Australia, in Hungary, Switzerland, and also in Poland. So a lot of victim in European area. So we try to connect everything. What are the similarities that we see? First thing first, we get the characteristic on the right side, and then we get the two things, travel and e-commerce. So the initial access coming, both of them are phishing. So the MITRE attack tactic is a T1566, but it's different phishing. One is using chat, and one is using email, specifically URL shortening. The IP and ISP pretty much similar, Cloudflare and DDoS guard. We get the phishing target, buyer. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's buyer and also the seller. The merchant compromise, we know for the hotel, the Booking.com, it's from FIDAR info stealer. We are not sure how they compromise the merchant here. The phishing page, they're using the legitimate components, the same HTML classes, functions, ID. The phishing page, they do have verification function. They do have the chat support. They have the same certificate issuer, and they have a lot other similarities. For example, they have all the information of the user itself. So it's really scary when you get phished and they know everything about your victim. These are the target that we see between 2021, 2023. A lot of them are Swisspost, Carousel, which is like a buy and sell platform. Same with Private24, OLX. So they're targeting like a marketplace platform and such, and also like postal services. And then we see Booking.com down there. So this year, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. So before, for the travel, it's just Booking.com. But today, we've seen they're expanding to, you're probably aware of Agoda. It's like pretty big in Asia. They get Airbnb, of course, pretty big also in Japan, and they get Expedia. It's being reported in Reddit, for example, in the travel subreddit, in the Taylor Swift subreddit, they even reported it. And then there's a report from the ACCC, they are having an increase in 2023. They're more than 580%. So that's a really high number. And then the total losses around 350,000. But the thing is, if you see the previous page, only one Australia organization being involved. What about the one in Europe? What about in other region? We never know what's the losses. We will never know. And then these are some new targets that we see. We get Etsy, Avito, Boxberry, Booking.com again. We get Agoda, Airbnb. These are from urlscan.io in the around 2024. And then this is even more interesting. So if you see the date of my stay, it's on November 23rd, 24. So that's my hotel for next week. And they are still sending me a phishing message up until today. This one is even more interesting because for whatever reason, they send me a message in Spanish. Like, I don't speak Spanish, but they're sending me in Spanish. So this is really weird. Is this a new threat actors? We don't know. So if I click the link, it actually worse because they're using Cloudflare. And if you use Cloudflare, you can activate like verify if you are a human interaction. So it's becoming problematic because the automated scanning will not be able to scan the phishing page. So you have to click you're not a human, and then it will load the phishing page. So it's try to evade the security tools that scan the web page. But there are some good news. For example, here, Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome are actually now telling people that this is a dangerous site when they click on the links. Some of them, but not all of them. So this is already a good thing that we have for this year. And then the goodest or like the best thing, I actually found the source code of the phishing platform. If you go to the link, it's not active anymore. I reported it to the GitHub security team, but I managed to secure a copy. Yeah, they took it down in October 24, so it's no longer exists. But I will share what I learned from it. So these are the classes, the JavaScript code. So this is a Telegram bot that able to do a lot more things. So we'll talk about the Telegram things later. So the main language is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it has advanced functionality. For example, it has an admin panel. So when you're an admin, you can do things like manage the Telegram channel. You can manage the user. You can ban the user. You can see how much profit is being made by the user. So these users are actually the phishing users. So they try to phish people more and more. You have the ability to create phishing pages. They have templates. So if you see here, they're like BE, I guess, Belgium, and then BG, Bulgaria, Denmark, etc. And this is the example for the Royal Mail. So this is a British UK Royal Mail. So you can see there's like a lot of variables, like ad.price, ad.title, ad.name. So you can actually make it variable. You can change the value easily using this platform. And then you have the ability to contact victim using email, using the support chat that we saw, and using the text messages, for example, for the MFA prom. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that screenshot at the bottom on the next slides. So what is Telecopia, right? You see there's a picture of mammoth and then turtles there. So this is where all the story begins. So in this particular screenshot, there are some comments or like some text in Russian that are being translated to, for example, the first one is X to send an SMS. You must be a pro worker. And then the bottom one, enter the mammoth's phone number. So they're using a term called mammoth. And this actually raised a question for me. And then I go to the internet, I look around, I Google it. And then I found another research by ESET, which is another security company. It's called Telecopy Hunting Mammoths Using Telegram Bot. They have it in their blog post. So the idea of the Telecopy platform, it's they have an admin, so like the boss, the boss of the operation, and then they employ multiple people. So they have more smaller bad guys under them, and then they fish and scam the mammoths. So just like the previous pictures, so the mammoths are the victim, the Neanderthals are trying to fish them to kill, well, not to kill, well, like to get the money from them. And then, yeah. So this is the bigger picture of things. So here, we get access broker. So they're buying and selling access. For example, they're phishing the hotel owners. They get their credentials to the admin of the booking.com, admin of Airbnb, admin of Agoda, and then they sell this to Telecopy admin. So they can use the admin account, and then they employ the Neanderthals, and then they fish the users of the platform. So the mammoths or the buyer, they will fall victim to it, they will share their credit card information, and they will get all the money from their credit card all the way to the end. So that is pretty much everything. A little bit closing, just some recommendation. So this is for the users of the application. So if you use booking.com, if you use Airbnb, just be aware of phishing attempts all the time. It happens all the time. Be cautious. Even if it's an official chat function, they might still be compromised. So just keep the mindset of being cautious. You can use online tools. There's a lot of online tools free, such as VirusTotal, the URL scan.io that I use. You can always report the suspicious activity to the application itself. So you can send them email. There might be like a phone number that you can call. Use password management tools. Use a strong password mindset. So like different password for different websites. And generate like a strong password. And use MFA whenever possible. So that might be challenging because some platform doesn't have MFA. But yeah, it's unfortunately not a perfect world. And most importantly, it's probably for the people here, the security developers, the program, like developers for the application. First thing first, you need to monitor access of the user. So for example, if you're building application, whatever it is, you need to treat them just like how you treat your corporate users, your employee. So when they logged in, you need to know if it's the real user or if it's not the real user. You can check if they have different, ISPs, if they're coming from different country, if there's been a brute force attempt before that. So you need to pay attention to that. Whenever possible, you need to create MFA capability for the application so the user can use it. You need to perform adequate logging, make sure that each deploy feature have a logging capabilities, because when you build application, it's up to you what logging you want to detect. For example, if you have a chat function in your application, do you monitor what URL being sent in the chat? So if you monitor that, you can actually determine if it's bad or good URLs. You can also do things like if they are sending files, attachments, if they're sending malicious attachment. You can also implement real-time threat intelligence, such as brand protection, and then take down services if you see any similar pages trying to phish your customers. You can do, of course, conduct regular security assessment, so like a red teaming, to allow them to find new ways to break into your companies. And then lastly, you have to foster a culture of security, not internally, but also externally to your customers, to the people that is using your products. You can send them email if there is threat actors targeting them. For example, hey, there's an increase of phishing attempts against our customers. So you provide them with resources and ways to report the security concerns. So that's all for today. Thank you so much. Again, I'm task manager on Twitter X, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect with you. And yeah, so this phishing is still ongoing. There is actually a group right now working a little bit more on that. So hopefully we can take them down completely soon. Yeah, thank you so much.